Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. Someone pounded on the apartment door, and every conversation snapped off. I nearly dropped the plastic crown in my drink. I'm Aaron, 27 that night and old enough to know better. Every eye swung to me because the maid of honor handles surprises. My stomach already knew who waited outside and what I was gambling. I forced my feet toward the door anyway because everyone started chanting. "Open it, Aaron, open it," bounced off the walls and pinned me. I glanced at my phone because it buzzed again in my palm. Mark's name lit the screen with the last message still visible. "No strippers tonight, please," was sitting there like a dare. You know, the kind of promise you text just to calm someone down. I had sent Mark one of those hours earlier and closed the chat. Now my thumb hovered over the keyboard while the knocking continued. "We're just doing drinks and games," I typed with shaking fingers. Before I could second guess myself, I hit send and grabbed the knob. That little tick showed up right as the latch clicked. I pulled the door open just enough for one body to slide through. He stood there in a cheap fake uniform with a smirk already loaded. No company logo, just bare chest half hidden in a prop helmet. "You the maid of honor?" His eyes ran over my sash. For a second I just stared because something in his face tugged memory. I shook it off because Lena was 10 feet behind me yelling. "You're early," so I hissed it and pushed my shoulder into the door. "I need you to wait 30 seconds until the music starts." He laughed under his breath and leaned against the frame like he owned it. "Relax, sweetheart, this is routine, and I have done this 1,000 times." Lena shouted my name from the living room and asked about more ice. My heart slammed so hard I thought she could hear it over everything. I pressed my foot behind the door and blocked his view of her. "1 minute, Lena," I yelled that out and prayed she believed it. Lena cursed playfully, and someone turned the volume up again on cue. I stepped closer to the guy and dropped my voice low near his ear. "Remember the rules, please. No touching her without her saying yes first." He smirked like he had heard that line on every job. "Everyone always says that, then they start tipping me to break it." He tapped the emergency button on his speaker and waited for my reaction. My chest tightened because Mark's message was still burning in my brain. I pictured him on his couch trusting me and thinking we were playing trivia. "No strippers, Aaron." I mean, it had not sounded that serious earlier. Tonight those words felt heavier than the guy blocking the doorway. I still opened my bag and handed over the cash because everyone trusted me too. Once the money changed hands, there was no way to pretend this was theoretical. You walk in when the beat drops, then you go straight to her. He tested the door with his boot and grinned like he lived for timing. "Got it already, man," he muttered and flexed his shoulders once. "Make it loud and give me room to move, okay?" I cracked the door wider and signaled to Casey near the playlist controls. She caught my look and her grin turned sharp with pure chaos. 3, 2, 1, she mouthed as her finger hovered, then slammed the volume up. The track dropped hard and the whole room screamed like a game show reveal. The dancer shoved the door fully open and stepped in like he owned the air. Lena spun around mid-sentence and her jaw actually forgot how to close. For a second nobody moved because the reality of him hit slower than the music. Then my best friend shrieked my name and grabbed the nearest throw pillow. "You did not just do this, Aaron," she yelled over the music. She hurled the pillow at me and almost missed because she could not look away from him. I forced a laugh that sounded way too high and sharp in my ears. "Happy almost last night of freedom for you," I shouted with my voice shaking. The guy started his routine move with a slow circle and hands behind his back. He winked at her with that practiced confidence and something in me flinched hard. I had seen that exact wink somewhere else, and my brain would not line up why. My phone buzzed again against my thigh right as he rolled his hips. I knew it was Mark without checking because guilt can recognize its own shadow. I kept my hand away from the screen and forced my smile wider for Lena. If I read that message right, then I might have stopped everything. Instead, I watched the entertainer step between us, and I let the night swing open. He clapped once for attention, and the whole room lurched toward him. Lena still held the pillow like a shield pressed to her chest. He crooked a finger at her and rolled one shoulder toward the couch. "Birthday girl front row," his voice came out teasing and too smooth. The way he said it scraped across something buried in my mind. She dropped the pillow and stumbled toward him, laughing and cursing at me. Someone shoved a drink into her hand and she knocked it back fast. I watched liquid splash down her wrist and she wiped it on her dress. My phone buzzed against my leg again and I ignored it on purpose. Choosing not to look felt like a decision I could never undo. He grabbed the speaker and tapped a setting. Then he planted it near the coffee table. The bass kicked harder and the floor seemed to jump under my feet. He stepped into the open space and let everyone circle close around him. I moved to the side, half behind the kitchen doorway. I needed distance from his body more than I wanted a good view. I still thought he was just some random entertainer I would forget tomorrow. "What's the bride's name?" he yelled out over the track. "Lena," the girls yelled back in a messy chorus that shook the windows. He nodded once, then snapped his attention straight toward me instead. "And what's our fearless planner's name?" His eyes pinned me and did not budge. My throat locked because I had not told him anything at the door. Someone answered for me before I could even swallow. "Aaron," the voice came from the corner near the snacks. It sounded bright and careless, like it did not matter at all. "Fine, nothing special, just a party detail thrown into the air." Except he repeated it under his breath with a low half-laugh. He said it like he had tasted it before, and that rattled me. He walked around Lena in a slow circle, hands behind his back. She hammed it up, posing with her fake veil sliding crooked on her hair. The others chanted something ridiculous that I could not fully catch. I kept waiting for my brain to relax and accept this as normal. Instead, every step he took drew a tighter line between us. He came to a stop right in front of me for a beat. The routine did not call for that, I knew that much. "You sure you don't want the first dance, Aaron?" He leaned close enough that I could feel his breath against my temple. For a second the music dropped away, and I heard only that question. I forced a scoff and pushed his chest lightly with 2 fingers. "Get back to the guest of honor before she divorces you early." Lena yelled something about betrayal and pointed at us, face flushed hard. He laughed and turned away. Then he brushed my hand with his as he spun. That little touch hit like a jolt because it did not feel accidental. He guided Lena into the middle and had her sit on the couch. Her knees bounced while she tried to look relaxed and failed miserably. "Hands where I can see them," he ordered with a playful grin. Her arms shot straight up while everyone hooted and whistled around them. I wanted to laugh with them, but my chest felt squeezed tight. He started moving with the beat, slow at first. It was all showmanship and timing. Lena covered her face with her wrists and peeked through her fingers. Every time he dipped close, she kicked out one leg and screeched. He placed one palm on the back of the couch near her shoulder. That hand stayed there a fraction longer than his act probably required. Looking back now, I think this was the exact moment I knew. He braced himself like he recognized the room, not just the job. His gaze swept over the group, then slid back to me again. He held it there just a little too long, past natural curiosity. My skin went hot in a way that had nothing to do with alcohol. Casey appeared on my left with her phone already up and recording. She nudged my elbow, eyes wide. She whispered that this would blow up. "She is going to die when she replays this tomorrow," she giggled. I grabbed her wrist and aimed the camera lower, away from faces. I told myself it was for everyone's privacy, not my own panic. He shifted the focus and pretended to unbutton his uniform slowly. Lena shrieked and shouted a rule about no actual stripping in her living room. He smirked and peeled only enough fabric to reveal more skin. The girls threw napkins like confetti, while the track thumped in steady waves. I noticed he kept glancing at me between moves, almost checking my expression. "Come on, Aaron, you arranged this, you better enjoy the show." That came from one of the bridesmaids near the hallway, laughing loudly. I threw my hand up in a mock cheer and tried to oblige. Inside, I was running numbers, balancing fun against the promise in my messages. Every beat felt like it pushed me closer to some invisible edge. He turned and dragged the speaker closer, then picked a different playlist. The new rhythm hit slower and heavier. It had less goofy bounce and more grind. Lena groaned and yelled that this was illegal and also her favorite vibe. He took her hand and pulled her to her feet, then sat in her place. For a second, they just stared at each other like a dare. "Your turn," he patted his thigh like a chair. The room exploded with noise, people chanting for her to go. She looked at me with wide eyes, searching my face for a verdict. If I shook my head right then, she would have stayed put. I lifted my drink instead and raised my brows like a challenge. She climbed across his legs clumsily and almost slipped sideways off his knee. He caught her waist with a steady grip and eased her back into position. Her laughter pitched higher as she bounced awkwardly, trying to find a rhythm. He guided her hips with confident hands, turning the whole thing smoother. I felt nausea creep in even as I shouted along with everyone else. I tell myself now that any maid of honor would have let it roll. In that minute, I needed her to have a wild memory. I also needed proof that this was still just surface-level chaos. If I admitted my discomfort out loud, the night might tilt differently. So I clapped and yelled and pretended nothing under that performance bothered me. He bent his head toward her ear and murmured something I could not hear. Whatever it was made her gasp, then laugh in a lower register. Her fingers twisted into his hair while she leaned back on his lap. The crowd noise spiked, people chanting something crude that I refused to repeat. My own heartbeat drowned them out as I watched his mouth near her throat. He pressed a quick kiss beneath her jaw, almost casual in the motion. Shouting erupted around the room like someone had hit a jackpot. Lena threw her head back and hollered that she was never marrying now. Part of me wanted to drag her off him right then and there. Another part stayed frozen because I noticed his eyes were closed. That detail sounds small, I know, it clawed at me. He looked like someone pretending she was someone else, and I hated that. The uneasy feeling from the doorway returned, pounding behind my ribs. I studied his jawline and the angle of his nose. Then the curve of his mouth hit me like a slap. There it was at last, the click of recognition I had been avoiding. His lashes lifted and he caught me staring and did not flinch away. A slow grin crept across his face, not the routine stage kind. "Long time, huh?" he murmured. His eyes stayed locked on mine. Lena kept dancing on his lap, oblivious to the shift between us. My hands went numb around my drink as his identity slammed into place. I do not need to spell out who he was yet. Let me just say there was history that never really cooled down. The kind you pack away and hope never bumps into your future. Seeing him there under my best friend felt like a private joke gone rotten. I wanted to crawl out of my own skin, but there was nowhere to go. I shoved through the group toward the kitchen, mumbling about more ice. Nobody listened, too caught up in the spectacle happening 3 feet away. From the counter, I watched Lena grind more confidently, totally in the moment. He coached her movement with little taps to her hips and thighs. Each touch twisted the knife deeper because he knew exactly what he was doing. Casey joined me breathless, waving her phone like a trophy. "Look at this angle, this is insane, she is going to flip." The clip played on the tiny screen, shaky and loud and way too intimate. I snatched the device from her and jabbed at the interface until it paused. Seeing it from that view made the whole thing feel even more dangerous. "Relax, we will keep it in the group chat," she rolled her eyes. I told her to delete anything that showed clear details or names. She shrugged and said we could trim it tomorrow and decide what to keep. That casual tone wrapped around my neck like a rope inching tighter. I should have made her erase everything right then before anyone else saw. A sharp knock rattled the front door again, louder than before. It came fast and impatient. It sliced straight through the bass and cut the cheering almost in half. Lena did not even notice, still moving with her hair whipping wildly. She stayed lost in the attention. He noticed, though, his head snapping toward the noise with sudden focus. My stomach dropped because I knew we were not done with surprises yet. I shoved away from the counter and pushed through the bodies toward the entrance. The music still blared, but that pounding on the door cut straight through it. Someone yelled that the neighbors would lose it, then went back to cheering anyway. Lena bounced on his legs like nothing else existed except that beat and his hands. I kept my eyes off them because if I looked again I might freeze. The knock came again, harder this time, like whoever was outside was done waiting. I yanked the door open just enough to squeeze into the gap. Cold air brushed my face and cleared my head for one sharp second. A guy stood there with a small sound system under one arm and a bag slung low. He blinked at me, then past me, trying to see around my shoulder. "Hi, party delivery." He lifted the equipment slightly like proof. His shirt clung to his chest, not a costume yet but close enough. I threw an arm across the opening and blocked his line of sight. "We're good, wrong address. SS try upstairs." My voice came out too fast and thin. He narrowed his eyes and leaned sideways, stubborn and curious. "Pretty sure this is the spot." His jaw tightened as the bass rolled out. He angled his head, listening, then smirked without any humor this time. "Music's already going, you call a company or not?" My stomach twisted, because of course Mark had made me text everything earlier. I could not tell this stranger anything without feeling that old promise scrape. He shifted his load to one hand and knocked the door with his knuckles again. "Move a little so I can at least ask whoever booked me." I almost snapped that the job was covered, then heard my own desperation. The sound of Lena's loud laugh drifted out, mixed with wild chanting. He heard it too, and his whole posture changed like a string got pulled. "Is that a bachelorette?" His eyebrows jumped as he glanced at the sash on my chest. I forgot I still wore that stupid thing announcing my role in everything. Something in his gaze sharpened as he looked directly at my face. "Wait, Aaron." My name came out flat, not flirty, heavy with recognition. It hit me that he was not just some random from an agency list. My throat went dry as I stared back and tried to place him. He set the speaker down, wiped his palm slowly on his jeans, then nodded once. "Yeah, I know you. You are with Mark." His voice dropped on that last word. Hearing my fiancé's name in that hallway made the floor tilt under my feet. I grabbed the door harder because I suddenly needed something solid to hold. I know how that sounds now, like a scripted coincidence. At the time it felt like someone had dug through my messages and outed me. I managed to ask how he knew Mark, though it came out thin and rough. He gave a short, humorless laugh and rubbed the back of his neck. "I'm his cousin, Ethan. We met once at Thanksgiving, you probably forgot." The memory snapped into place, messy and half-formed, of an awkward family dinner. I remembered a loud guy across the table who told bad jokes and drank fast. I also remembered Mark nudging me later and saying he was harmless. Standing in my hallway with a sound system and work bag, he did not look harmless. He looked like a walking problem I had accidentally ordered. Behind me the crowd roared again as the track hit some kind of drop. I heard Lena shout something slurred and thrilled that I could not make out. Then a deeper male voice yelled for her to spin around slowly. I did not need to look to know whose thighs she was still straddling. Ethan caught that tone through the crack and his expression went rigid. "Tell me that is not what I think it is." He stepped closer to the gap. I tried to hold the door, but he was stronger and more motivated. He pushed against it gently, just enough to widen the view. From where he stood, he could now see part of the living room. His eyes locked on the sight inside, and all the warmth drained out of his face. I did not have to turn around to know what he saw. Lena half on top of the first performer, hips rolling in time with the bass. Her arms held above her head while the others screamed and waved cups. His hands gripping her waist like he had been born doing exactly that. The whole scene framed by my doorway like proof I could not explain away. Ethan blew out a sharp breath and shifted his gaze back to me slowly. "Mark texted me your address earlier," he said, voice low. "He wanted me to drop by after my shift and check on you." That detail hit harder than everything else I had heard that night. Not because of the favor, but because of the trust sitting under it. I know I should have told Ethan to leave and kept the door shut. Instead, I stepped into the hall with him and pulled the door mostly closed. The music dulled, but I could still feel the bass through the frame. I asked why he was taking entertainment jobs without telling his family. He snorted and glanced down the hallway like he wanted to walk away. "Because rent wants payment even when you make bad decisions," he muttered. "Company sent me the booking 10 minutes ago with this address and your first name." He lifted his phone and flashed a notification screen at me. I saw my own number under the request line with the word surprise attached. That tiny screenshot made me feel exposed in a way the lap dance never did. Ethan dragged a hand over his face and looked past me again. So you told my cousin what about tonight exactly? My lungs stalled because he already knew the answer, he just wanted confirmation. I shrugged like it was nothing and heard how fake it sounded even to me. Girls' night, games, he gets anxious about stuff like this, it is not a big deal. Ethan barked a short laugh that held zero humor this time. Not a big deal, while his fiancé is hosting a stranger grinding on a bride. The word fiancé slammed into me harder than the stranger part did. I hated that he was technically right while also being completely unfair. There is something ugly about watching your own choices reflected in someone else's disgust. He bent down, picked up his speaker again, then set it back down sharply. I'm not dancing in there, that line is already crossed enough. He jerked his chin toward the living room. You have video going too, I saw that girl filming when the door opened. The mention of the recording made my skin go hot and prickly. I tried to brush it off, told him it was just a short clip for the group. His head snapped toward me, eyes suddenly very clear and very sober. No, that stuff circulates, people forward someone screenshots, Mark finds it online. His voice stayed calm, which somehow scared me more than if he had yelled. He pulled his phone out and hit the power button like he was weighing something. Look, you make everyone delete whatever they already took. He pointed toward the room with 2 fingers, steady and firm. Or I call him now and tell him exactly what I walked in on. My stomach flipped because I could actually see him doing it without hesitation. I hated that a part of me respected that more than my own silence. I asked him how that helped anyone, voice fighting not to crack. If he called tonight, the whole party would implode and Lena's engagement might crater. He shrugged one shoulder like that fallout was not his concern at all. He deserves the truth, she deserves the truth too, honestly, this is ugly. Hearing him say ugly while my choices sat between us made my eyes burn. Inside the apartment, the track changed to something even more suggestive. People shouted for Lena to turn around and drop lower. I caught the tail end of a chant that used her future last name. My chest clenched because those same people would stand at her ceremony cheering. Ethan heard it too and his mouth twisted. He tapped the phone screen again, thumb poised over the call icon. Last offer, you shut this down a little, you clean the evidence. He looked straight into my face so I could not pretend I misheard. I will keep my mouth shut tonight, I am not promising after that. That half promise dangled there like a rope that might still snap. I told him I could not just storm in and yank her off the guy. People had paid, there was alcohol, emotions were high, it would explode. I sounded like I was describing someone else's mess, not my own. He lifted his brows, unimpressed, then leaned closer so only I could hear. You wanted wild, this is what wild costs when grown-ups are involved. I hated him for saying it because it was completely accurate. I also hated myself for needing him to spell it out. It is one thing to bend a rule in your head where nobody hears it. It is another thing entirely to have a family member hold up a mirror. I could feel the version of myself I liked shrinking back from the one I actually was. Behind the door, another round of cheers crashed over the music. Lena yelled something about being untouchable until tomorrow. The performer answered with a deep laugh that slid under my skin. Ethan glanced toward the sound and winced like it physically hurt him. If Mark ever heard that clip, he would bury both of us, he murmured. I argued that it was Lena's decision, what crossed lines with her fiancé. He cut me off with a sharp wave of his hand, eyes flashing. Maybe, but you are the one who swore to my cousin tonight would be tame. There it was, the word I had been avoiding all evening. Swore, it tasted awful now, crumbling on my tongue as I tried to defend it. I told him I could manage it, that I would keep everything contained. He stared for another long second, then shook his head slowly. No, you already lost control, I watched it happen through a 6-inch gap. He lifted his phone one more time, thumb hovering over the call. Choose fast, Aaron, I am not standing in this hallway forever. In that moment, I realized this was not just about one chaotic party. It was about which disaster I could live with when I told this story later. I could let him dial and shatter whatever trust I still had with Mark. Or I could walk back in, stop the show, and try to erase digital evidence. Neither option made me look good, and I knew it. I reached out and pushed his hand down before he could press anything. My fingers shook harder than I wanted him to notice. "Give me 10 minutes," I said, forcing each word out slow and clear. "I will get the phones, I will calm things down, you stay right here." He studied me like he was trying to decide if I was still capable of that. Finally, he tucked his phone into his pocket and leaned against the opposite wall. "I am counting," he warned, tapping the side of his leg like a metronome. "You do not come back with good news, I am done protecting you." That last part dug in deeper than if he had called me names. Because I realized he still saw me as someone worth protecting, and I did not. I turned the knob and stepped back into the heat and noise of the living room. The bass hit my chest again, louder after the muffled hallway. Lena was still on top of the performer, only closer, only bolder. Casey stood nearby with her camera lifted high, capturing every second. I could feel Ethan waiting on the other side of the wall like a ticking clock. I went straight for Casey and grabbed her wrist mid-record. Her phone jerked sideways and the image smeared across the screen. She laughed at first, thinking I was joking like before. I tightened my grip until her smile cracked and her eyes searched my face. "Stop filming now." My voice did not sound like party voice anymore. She tried to pull back, cheeks flushed, still riding the high. "Relax, this is iconic, she's going to love this later." I forced the phone down toward my chest so the camera faced the floor. "Casey, I'm serious, put it away or hand it over." I could feel girls watching, sensing the mood shift like sharks circling. The dancer noticed the change before Lena did. He slowed his movements and glanced our way, chest still heaving in rhythm. He clocked the phone in my hand and the tension between us. "You good over there, planner?" His tone tried to stay light, but his eyes did not. I hated that I still reacted to his attention like a reflex I never unlearned. Lena twisted on his lap to look at me, hair sticking to her neck. "Aaron, what are you doing? You are ruining my moment." She sounded half joking, half annoyed, which somehow made it sting more. I pasted on a thin smile because I needed cooperation, not a fight. "We are just taking a quick recording break, okay? Real life only." The room answered with a chorus of moans and dramatic protests. Someone shouted that we were not in high school anymore. Another voice yelled that it was fine, we trusted each other. Trust, that word hit hard enough to make me sway for a second. I held Casey's phone tighter because that was the only thing I could actually control. Casey tugged again, less playful now. "If I do not save this, she will kill me tomorrow." I leaned in close so only she could hear me over the beat. "If you do save this, someone else might kill me, pick your battle." That was the first time I let the real risk bleed out in front of anyone. "Is this about Mark?" she asked, face softening just a little. Her question landed like a rock in my stomach. I did not answer, because saying yes out loud felt like confessing to something bigger. Instead, I flipped the phone over and hit stop on the recording. She gasped and snatched it back, scanning the last clip with frantic swipes. Before she could restart, I climbed onto the edge of the coffee table. My legs shook, but I raised both arms and whistled sharp. "Phones down, I mean it, put them away for real." I spun slowly, making eye contact with as many of them as I could. "If you want this to stay fun, it cannot live on the internet." They groaned again, but a few actually slid their screens into pockets. One bridesmaid muttered something about being no fun police under her breath. Another waved her camera anyway, daring me to come grab it. I stared her down until she rolled her eyes and lowered it halfway. It was not perfect, but at least the worst angles vanished for a moment. Behind me, the dancer eased Lena off his lap with gentle hands. He stood, adjusted his costume, and walked toward the speaker. "Short break, ladies," he announced it like part of the show. He flicked the volume down a notch, just enough that we could hear each other. Then he crooked a finger at me to join him by the hallway. I jumped down and met him near the doorway, chest still tight. He leaned in close, his breath warm against my ear. You did not mention a camera rule when you booked. His tone had lost the playful edge and picked up something sharper. Problem at home, Aaron. Hearing my name like that almost knocked me back. I hated that he could still read my panic with one glance. We are done with recording, that is all, you still get paid. I kept my voice low, trying not to drag our entire history into that doorway. He studied my face like he was looking for more than the answer. You sure you can actually enforce that with this crowd? No, I was not sure of anything at that point. But I nodded anyway, because admitting weakness in front of him felt unbearable. Do your next set, then we wrap, quick and clean. We both knew nothing about the night had been clean from the second he arrived. He shrugged, spun back toward Lena, and bumped the volume up again. As the music surged, the front door cracked open behind me. Ethan stepped inside without waiting for an invite, leaving his gear outside. His eyes swept the room once, taking in Lena, the dancer, the half-hidden phones. The energy shifted again, that weird ripple when someone new brings different stakes. He looked very out of place. And somehow exactly where he needed to be. Lena spotted him and lit up like someone had just won a party game. What, we get a second one? Aaron, what did you do? She clapped drunkenly, staring between the two men with giddy disbelief. The girl screamed again, ready for an even bigger spectacle. My pulse hammered because this was the opposite of the quiet solution I wanted. Ethan raised both hands, palms out, as if to calm a riot. Not performing, wrong assignment, business mix-up. His tone cut through the noise more than his volume did. He glanced at me for half a second, silent warning written all over his face. Please do not invite me to the stage, I am only here for safety. Lena booed dramatically and pouted at me, swaying on her feet. You promised chaos, this is half chaos, I want full package. The words landed heavier than she realized, considering who was standing there. I forced a laugh and tried to scoop the attention away. Full package would get us banned from the building, you are good already. The dancer walked over, chest still sheened with sweat, evaluating Ethan. You the backup they sent, he looked him up and down. I got this covered, man, they only paid for one act. Ethan let his gaze drop to the guy's hands, then back up to his face. Yeah, I can see that, we still have a problem though. That last word snapped at the room, even if nobody understood yet. He tilted his head toward Casey without actually looking at her. You with the phone, bring it here. She froze, fingers hovering over her screen like a kid caught sneaking candy. The others turned toward her, suddenly more interested in the side plot than the show. Casey tried to laugh it off, chin lifting in defiance. Relax, it is private, only close friends on this list. Ethan stepped closer until they were barely a foot apart. You posted already, his voice had gone quiet, almost flat. Take it down now or I call my cousin from this couch. Her head snapped toward me, eyes wide, searching for backup. I felt my throat close because I had not known it was already live. You posted it, the words came out hoarse, scraped raw with fear. She winced and shrugged, defensive and embarrassed at once. It was just a story, it disappears, no one even screenshots those. That sentence aged like milk in real time. Ethan plucked the phone out of her hand before she could lock it. His thumbs moved fast, opening the app, finding the clip. The sound spilled faintly from the tiny speaker as he replayed it. There was Lena on the dancer's lap from a low angle, every movement clear. He stared at the video for one long second with his jaw clenched. Then he hit the options and tapped delete, breathing out slowly. They're gone from your end, now check your messages. He held the phone up in front of her face so she could see the alerts. 2 new notifications sat there from names I recognized from Mark's side of the family. One message preview read, who is that on her, laughing emoji included. The other said, thought she was getting married next month. I felt my stomach flip into my chest at those little lines of text. It is wild how a whole night condenses into one careless caption. Casey blanched, color draining as the reality finally slammed through the buzz. I only posted it for 3 minutes, she whispered, voice shaking now. Ethan nodded once, not letting her off the hook. 3 minutes is enough for someone to save it, forward it, gossip about it. He tossed the phone gently back to her and rubbed his forehead. You cannot stuff this back in the bottle just by hitting delete. The dancer watched the whole exchange with his arms folded. His playful persona had slipped completely, eyes hard now. What exactly did you tell them I was here for? He directed that at me, not at anyone else in the room. Hearing the subtext in that question made me want to crawl out of my own skin. I swallowed and forced myself to meet his gaze. Entertainment, nothing more, not cheating, not some secret hookup. He gave a short nod, like he filed that away under pointless now. Then maybe you should have left the camera rule at the top of the invite. He was not wrong, which somehow made it hurt even worse. Lena wobbled closer, eyes glossy, trying to piece everything together. Why is everyone freaking out? It is just dancing, calm down. She stuck her lower lip out like a kid scolded for running indoors. Ethan turned toward her slowly, softening his features a fraction. It is dancing that looks bad frozen in a 10-second clip. She blinked, confusion hitting in slow waves through the haze. So what, my fiancé cannot handle a joke? I winced because that sounded exactly like something I would have said earlier. Ethan answered before I could step in. Your fiancé is not the one who called me tonight, mine did. Silence dropped for a beat as people processed that piece. Lena frowned, trying to track. Okay, the connections. Wait, you are related to Mark. He nodded, shoulders tight, like he regretted admitting it in front of everyone. He wanted someone he trusted to pop by and make sure it stayed mellow. That word landed like a punch right to my ribs. Mellow, not this, definitely not whatever had just been broadcast online. Lena turned on me, hurt and defensive all at once. You told him this would be mellow. The way she stressed it made it sound like a betrayal on top of everything else. I felt heat rush up my neck as every pair of eyes swung toward me. I told him we were doing low-key stuff, yes, I panicked, okay. Even as I said it, I knew panic was a weak excuse. I wanted you to have your night without him hovering, I misjudged it. That last part tasted like gravel, but it was the closest I could get to admitting fault. The dancer stepped slightly away from Lena, separating himself from the center. Look, I am finishing my contracted time, then I am out. His attention bounced between me and Ethan, sizing up the threat. If anyone else films, I walk right now and nobody gets a refund. Crowd logic kicked in quickly, phones disappeared faster this time. He did one more short routine, toned down, less hands-on. Lena tried to keep up, but the mood had shifted. Instead of screaming, people clapped along awkwardly, glancing at each other. I stood near the kitchen entrance, counting down in my head. Every spin felt like minutes I could not afford to lose. When he wrapped up, he gave Lena a quick peck on the cheek. The kind you give a stranger at a photo booth, nothing intense. Still, I felt my shoulders tense when he did it. Old reflexes die loud, not quiet. He grabbed his things, collected his cash from me, and leaned close once more. You always did chase the edge and worry later, he murmured. The comment cut deeper than it should have because it was true. I kept my face neutral and handed over the folded bills. Tonight the edge bit back, consider your warning delivered. He gave a crooked half smile that did not reach his eyes, then slipped out. The front door clicked shut behind him, leaving a vacuum of awkward chatter. Someone turned the music down to a more normal party level. A couple of bridesmaids drifted toward the hallway, whispering about rides home. The noise normalized, but I could still feel the ghosts of the last track. Ethan watched it all like he was counting possible future witnesses. I pulled him aside toward the kitchen island, away from Lena. Okay, he left, most of the crowd is sobering up, phones are away. I ticked the points off like a checklist, desperate to show progress. He looked unimpressed and jabbed a thumb toward Casey. The damage already walked out through that story, you know that. I asked if he recognized the names that had messaged her. He nodded slowly, expression darkening. One is Mark's sister, the other hangs out with her constantly. He let that sink in before adding the next part. If they saw it, he might have seen it by now, or he will soon. A cold sweat broke out across my back at that possibility. I pictured his sister laughing with her friends, replaying the clip. Maybe joking about his anxious text before the party. Maybe deciding whether to send it to him or just describe it. None of those versions ended well for me. Lena stumbled over, slipped her arm around my waist, and leaned on me heavily. This was the best night, drama and all. Her words were slurred but earnest, eyes shining with leftover adrenaline. I am serious, Aaron, I will never forget this. I thought, yeah, that part was probably accurate in ways she did not grasp yet. Ethan watched us, conflict plain on his face. He looked at Lena, then at me, then toward the door. I am heading out before I say something I cannot walk back. He tapped the counter twice, a short, restless rhythm. You should call him before someone else fills in their own version. I told him I needed a few hours to get people home and calm down. I promised I would reach out before morning, voice thin but steady. He studied me again, like we were back in that hallway negotiation. You are running out of time to control this, Aaron. Then he stepped away and left without another glance. When the door shut behind him, the apartment felt strange, almost hollow. Not quiet, just emptied of the last person who might defend me. We shifted into the cleanup phase without saying it. Someone started stacking cups, someone else opened windows, someone cried in the bathroom. That is how nights like that always end, with small tasks trying to cover huge mistakes. I busied myself collecting stray phones that people had abandoned on tables. I checked each lock screen for notifications I recognized. Most were harmless, ride updates, memes, battery warnings. On Casey's, there were 3 more message previews about the vanished story. One reads, "Send that to me before it disappears," with a winking face. Who did you send it to before you posted? I asked her quietly. She sat on the couch, shoulders drooped now that the rush had faded. No one, I only hit post, I swear I thought it was funny. She looked like she might cry, which I could not even fully blame her for. We were all out of our depth, just in different ways. I opened the app again and checked her outgoing messages. No attached files, just older chats and random stickers. So the only copy had been that transient upload. Which meant the only people with it now were whoever captured it early. I kept picturing a thumb pressing that little save icon like a trigger. By the time the last guest left, the sky outside the windows had deepened. Lena crashed in my bedroom, shoes still on, veil tossed aside. She mumbled something about loving me forever before she knocked out. I stood in the doorway, watching her sleep for a second longer than necessary. It is hard to look at someone you care about when you know you changed their future. I finally checked my own phone again, heart pounding harder than before. There were a few messages from Mark from earlier, still unread. Hope your night is fun, do not let Lena stress too much. Send me a picture of you later, I miss your face. I stared at those lines, feeling like an entirely different person from when he wrote them. I typed out a reply with numb fingers. Sorry, chaos, just getting people home, we played games and ate too much. The lie slid out easier than it should have, casual and clean. I am exhausted, tell you everything tomorrow, love you. I stared at the word love, wondering what that meant coming from someone hiding this. I hovered over the call button more than once. Imagine confessing the whole thing in one brutal rush. Imagined his silence, then the sound of him pecking in the background. I wish I could say I chose courage in that moment. Instead, I locked my screen, tossed the phone on the nightstand, and crawled in beside Lena. Sleep did not come right away, obviously. My brain replayed the whole night in chopped-up loops. The door opening, the dancer saying my name like a problem. Ethan's thumb hovering over the call icon like a guillotine. Casey's notifications blinking dumbly while we scrambled to clean up. At some point, my body overpowered my mind and I slipped under. It felt shallow, jittery, like I was dozing on a plane during turbulence. I remember dreaming that my phone kept vibrating, but my hands would not move. I floated in that fog for what felt like 5 minutes at most. Then a harsh buzz on the nightstand dragged me straight up through it. The room was dark and disoriented when I reached for the screen. My eyes took a second to adjust to the harsh glow. One name sat there big and bright, cutting through any leftover haze. All the air left my lungs before I even hit accept. At 3 in the morning, my phone lit up with Mark calling. I answered on the second ring because my hand slipped on the screen. Hey, my voice came out rough, half whisper, half apology. He did not say hello back, which scared me more than yelling. There was just breathing on the line for a long second. Then he dropped the first question like a stone. Is there a stripper in your living room? No greeting, no softening, just that. I closed my eyes even though he could not see me. We had entertainment for Lena, yeah, it was stupid. The word stripper sat there between us with teeth. So you lied to me tonight. His tone stayed flat, not raised. I preferred angry to this calm thing he was using. I told you the one thing that bothered me. He inhaled slowly, like he was trying not to slam something. And then your name shows up on my screen with a video. My brain scrambled, still foggy from half sleep and leftover alcohol. What video? I said it too fast, which probably gave away everything. He ignored the act and kept going. 10 seconds, he clicked something, then let the sound play through. The audio hit my ear before the image reached my brain. I heard the track, the crowd, Lena laughing in that deeper way. Then he held the phone closer so his mic picked up the clip. Lena on the guy's lap, moving slow, hands over her head. Someone off-screen yelled her future last name like a joke. I could hear my own voice faintly in the background cheering. He stopped it before the end and returned to the call. That was 3 minutes on a story before it vanished. His voice shook once on vanished, then steadied again. I watched it 3 times to make sure I was seeing right. I lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling my insides twist. It is not as intense as it looks, I blurted instantly. I wanted to grab the words back as soon as they left. It was dancing, it went too far, then we pulled it back. I heard myself doing it, sanding down every edge. If I am honest, that sentence still makes me cringe. He went quiet. For a beat. When he spoke again, it hurt more because he still sounded controlled. Why did I have to see it from my sister's phone? That was new for me, the part I had not imagined yet. Why did she send it before you told me anything? My mouth went dry. She was on the close friends list, she got the story ping. He gave a humorless laugh that sounded more like a cough. Close friends, that is great, I love that for us. Every word landed heavier because he never talked like that. Did you know it went up? He asked, tone suddenly sharp. Did you watch it before it disappeared like everyone else? I pictured Casey's face when Ethan grabbed her phone. I pictured my own hands hitting delete, but late. I found out after, we deleted it as soon as we realized. You realized after my family saved it. His breathing hitched again, then smoothed out like a switch. I have it in my messages now, Aaron, it is not gone. The way he said my name felt worse than if he shouted. He sounded like someone closing a drawer on something important. He moved on before I could climb out of that. Who is the guy she is writing? No sugar on the verb. Is that the one you knew before or some random? My pulse pounded so loud I almost missed the last part. Of course, Ethan had filled in enough blanks for him to suspect. I picked the smaller fire because that was all I had. It is the same one from college, but I did not choose him specifically. The truth tasted sharp and metallic on my tongue. I booked through a service, he just showed up, I was shocked. That part at least landed clean, ugly but honest. He exhaled very slowly, like air leaving a balloon. So you invited some unknown performer after I begged you not to. He paused, let the weight of begged hang there. And it turned out to be the guy you almost hooked up with years ago. He laughed again, short and harsh. That is wild. My face burned even alone in the dark. I tried to pull the focus away from that piece. He was there for Lena, not for me, nothing happened with me. I heard the defensive edge creeping higher with each word. I stayed out of it once I recognized him, I swear. I do not care that nothing happened with you physically. His voice cracked slightly on physically, then steadied. I care that you organized a line crossing and kept it secret. He took another breath, this one closer to a sigh. I care that you made me feel crazy earlier for worrying. That line went straight through me because he was not wrong. I remembered teasing him in the kitchen before leaving. You trust me or not, right? It is just a silly night. I had laughed, kissed him, promised nothing wild. Now I lay there with his hurt voice in my ear, knowing exactly what I had done. I'm trying to fix it now, I said, a little desperate. No phones, the guy left, I'm going to talk to Lena later. The words tumbled out too fast, like a sales pitch. If you give me a day, I can clean a lot of this up. Even as I said it, I knew I was overestimating myself again. You cannot unsend that video, he answered quietly. You cannot unhear what my relatives already said about it. He sniffed once like he was fighting off tears or fury. One of them typed classy, followed by 3 laughing emojis. He almost choked on that last part. I wanted to defend Lena, defend the context, defend the whole stupid night. Instead, I bit down and listened, because he never talked like this. What hurt me most, he continued, voice lower now, is not even the clip, honestly, it is the message from earlier. I knew exactly which one he meant before he named it. We are just playing games and eating too much. He repeated my text slowly, my cheerful lie in his mouth. You hit send on that while that guy was sitting in your hallway. He did not phrase it like a question, because he did not need to. I stared at the ceiling, counting every blink as if that helped. I tried to explain the panic, the pressure, the chanting. How it felt easier to send a tiny lie than start a fight. It spiraled, I whispered. I did not see the full chain ahead. That is the truth, but it does not sound noble written out. Tonight proved that not seeing the chain does not excuse lighting it. He went silent again for several long seconds. I thought the call had dropped until he spoke once more. I do not recognize you from this story, he said softly. You always act like you hate messy drama, yet you created a whole event. The words landed heavier because he meant them as observation, not insult. I was trying to be the fun maid of honor. My throat tightened on the last 3 words. They expected something big, and I got carried away. There it was, the smaller confession before the bigger one. I also liked that you trusted me enough to ask for no strippers. How is that connected? He asked, genuinely confused now. I swallowed hard, trying to explain a feel. I barely understood myself. Part of me wanted to prove I could break that rule and still handle it. Saying it out loud made me sound like a teenager, not someone engaged. It felt like winning both sides until it blew up in my face. He let that sit for a moment. When he answered, his voice had gone tired more than furious. I am too old for that kind of test. Paper rustled in the background like he was pacing near a table. If your way of proving you are capable is ignoring what I say, I am scared. The word scared finally punched through my defensive shell. This was not about him playing controlling fiancé. This was about him wondering who he was marrying. I pressed my free hand over my eyes as tears finally pushed through. Are you calling off the wedding? The question tore out before I could stop it. Silence again, longer this time. I heard him breathe, heard a car pass outside wherever he was. No, he said finally, I am not canceling anything tonight. A tiny rush of relief hit, then fizzled fast as he continued. But I cannot walk into that ceremony like nothing happened either. He cleared his throat, like this part tasted awful too. We are pausing planning for now. He chose his words carefully, like each one could cut if dropped wrong. I need time to figure out if this was one disaster or a pattern. That line sliced deeper than any yelling would have. My chest ached in a way that felt physical. How long is pause? I asked, hating myself for scared bargaining. I do not know, he answered honestly, weeks may be longer if this spreads. He blew out a breath, audible through the speaker. And I need you to be brutally straightforward with Lena and her fiancé. That part hit sideways because I had been focused on us. Right, there was also the man planning to marry the woman in the video. You want me to be the one to tell him? I knew that was fair, but dread still crawled up my spine. She might hate me for dragging it out of the shadows. She might hate you, he agreed quietly, or she might already know she crossed a line. He sounded worn down by every angle of this. But he deserves facts, not rumors, and you are the only one sober enough to recount them. Another twist of the knife there, since I really had sobered up early. Maybe if we handle this honestly, something here can be salvaged. His use of we broke me a little more. He was pulling himself away and still saying we. Are you mad at Ethan? I asked suddenly, thinking of that hallway. For being there, for sending you details, for pushing me. I needed to know how much of the fallout had already hit. He told me he did not dance, he answered, and I believe him. I could picture their conversation, both men tense on opposite ends. He admitted he almost called sooner, but wanted to give you a shot first. There was something almost protective in that, even though it did not feel good. My anger with him is complicated, but you are the one I promised my life to. The way he separated those roles said more than any speech. I nodded even though he could not see it. I know this is on me, I said, voice trembling. I am not blaming him or Casey or anyone else. I planned it. Owning it did not magically make me a better person, but it was something. He spoke one last time before the call ended. I love you, he said, voice rougher now, and I am also deeply disappointed. Those two truths side by side nearly broke me open. We will talk when the sun is up and our heads are clearer. He hung up before I could answer, leaving the line dead in my ear. I lay there in the dark, phone still pressed to my cheek. Every sound in the apartment suddenly felt louder. Lena's soft snoring from the other side of the bed. The faint hum of the fridge down the hall. My own heartbeat hammering like it was trying to escape. Sleep was done for the night. I slid out of bed and padded into the kitchen, hands shaking. I poured water and forced myself to drink even though my stomach rolled. My reflection in the microwave door looked like someone I did not want to know. This is the part no one posts in those wild party recaps. Around 8, Lena stumbled out, eyeliner smeared, hair tangled. She squinted at the light and groaned about her head. Then she spotted my face and stopped making jokes. What happened? She whispered, voice suddenly careful. Did someone text you? I pulled out a chair and motioned for her to sit. She flopped down with a wince, rubbing her temples. Do not tell me we set something on fire, she tried to joke. I did not smile, which wiped the grin from her mouth. Okay, that was a bad opener. What is going on? I unlocked my phone and slid it across the table. The video preview sat there in our chat now, courtesy of Mark. I did not hit play again, I had seen enough. She watched the little thumbnail loop a couple seconds, then froze. Her hand flew to her mo. So fast she nearly knocked over the glass. That is not as bad as it could be, she started. Her voice faltered halfway through her own spin job. She saw the angle, the closeness, the crowd chanting. You know when someone goes from hungover to stone sober in one blink. That was her at that table. Who has it? She asked, eyes locked on mine. Right now for sure Mark, his sister, at least one of her friends, I answered. And we do not know who saved it when it was live. Her fingers tapped a jittery rhythm on the surface between us. How long was it up? Maybe 3 minutes, I said, hearing the number land between us. She squeezed her eyes shut and let out a rough sound. Jason is going to lose his mind. Her shoulders hunched like she was bracing for something heavy. Does Mark think we cheated or that I did? He knows it. Stopped at dancing, I said quickly, wanting to give her something. He is hurt that I lied, and he thinks you pushed boundaries hard. I paused, then forced the next part out. He also thinks your fiancé deserves to know exactly what happened. Her head jerked up at that, panic plain in her eyes. You are going to tell him? She sounded less like she was asking, more like she was reading a sentence. I nodded because I could not pretend otherwise. If you want to be the one, I will stand there with you. Her eyes filled instantly, but she blinked the tears back. I want to crawl into a hole, she muttered, voice shaking. I keep thinking of that stupid chant with his last name. She laughed once, a sharp broken sound that was nothing like last night. I thought this would be our fun story, like a wild memory. Her gaze went flat. I did not think his family would watch it. We sat there in silence for a minute, both replaying separate mistakes. Finally she asked the question I had been avoiding. Your wedding, what did he say? I swallowed throat raw and told her. We are still together, planning is paused, he is questioning everything. She flinched like I had slapped her. This is because of my night, she said, guilt crashing over her features. No, I answered immediately, louder than I meant to. This is because I lied to him and orchestrated the whole thing. Both of those truths can live side by side, and they do. She dropped her forehead to the table for a second, breathing hard. When she lifted it again, something had shifted in her expression. Okay, then we own it, all of it. Her voice steadied, which surprised me. We tell Jason, we answer questions, we let them freak out. That was the first time all morning I felt less alone. We did not turn into saints in that moment, just less cowardly. We spent the next hour drafting what to say, rewriting, deleting. Every version sounded either defensive or pathetic. In the end, we went with plain facts because there was nothing else. The actual call to her fiancé is its own disaster, honestly. He did not scream, which almost made it worse. He listened, asked direct things, went quiet for long stretches. At one point, he asked her if she would be okay seeing him in that video. She did not answer right away because the real reply was obvious. By the time she hung up, her hands were shaking. He needs space, she said hollowly, repeating his words. He loves me, but he cannot unsee that clip in his head. She stared down at her fingers like they belonged to someone else. Ring is not off, but it is not exactly on either. Our place turned into some temporary war room after that. Calls from family, from bridesmaids, from Ethan who got his own blowback. He let me know that their aunt had heard about his side gig. Thanks for the fun reveal, his text read, only half joking. I am the creepy cousin now, I will be keeping distance for a bit. That message stung, even though I understood. He had carried part of the load and caught stray bullets. I wanted to apologize, to explain that I did not sell him out. Then I remembered him in the hallway, warning me, giving options. He was right then, I was the one who refused to see past midnight. As the days passed, the story warped with each retelling. Some versions had actual cheating, some had drugs, some had police. We corrected what we could, though correction only travels so far. At work, people tossed me odd looks when my phone buzzed. I could not tell who knew and who just sensed the smoke. With Mark, things did not blow up further. They just cooled to this strange, careful temperature. We still texted, still exchanged logistics, still shared small jokes. But there was a guard around the deeper stuff now. He asked more questions when I went out, and I could hardly blame him. One night, a couple weeks later, he came over to talk in person. We sat across from each other, couch between us like a border. He had watched the video once more, he admitted. Not to punish himself, but to make sure his memory was honest. He said it looked like a bachelor party stunt, just with the roles reversed. I am not calling you evil, he told me slowly. I am saying this version of you is not someone I know. He rubbed his palms on his knees, a nervous habit. I need to believe you will not shrug off my boundaries like this again. That was the condition under which our relationship even limped forward. I did not give some grand speech about earning trust back. Those are easy to say and hard to live. I just told him I was in therapy before this party and would keep going. Because honestly, this did not come from nowhere, even if I wish it had. He nodded once, not relieved, but slightly less hardened. So where does that leave the wedding? I asked eventually. He stared at the floor for a long time before answering. Date is on pause, deposits are on hold where possible. He met my eyes, I still want to marry you, but not this version. That line hurt and gave hope at the same time. Lena's situation stayed murkier. Her fiancé moved back to a friend's place for a bit. They went at counseling, they talked in circles, they cried. Some days she would text me that things felt hopeful again. Other days she would rage that I should have never let Ethan in the door. That is the part where blame gets tossed like a hot potato. She told me I overcorrected with the cameras. That if I had chilled, the story might have died quietly. Mark thought I went too soft, that I protected her to cover myself. Ethan pulled back from both of us after becoming the family gossip headline. So now here I am, months later, typing all this out for strangers. I still wake up some nights with the sound of that knock in my head. I still hear my own voice lying into the phone like a coward. Sometimes I look at my ring and feel grateful it is still there. Other times I wonder if he is just waiting for one more mistake to pull it off. I know I am the one who booked the dancer and hid the truth. I also know I did not hit post on that video, though I waited too long to stop it. I know Lena climbed into that guy's lap willingly. I also know she trusted me to keep the night somewhat contained. There is enough responsibility here to go around, and I am not trying to dodge mine. So that is why I ended up on this app, scrolling through chaos. Reading other people's disasters made mine feel less unique, but not lighter. I keep rewriting this post because I am scared of being dragged. But honestly, I think I need people who are not in our orbit to weigh in. My friends are split, our families are biased, and I am stuck in the middle. Did I destroy my own engagement by chasing a wild story for someone else? Did I destroy hers by dragging family into it when I tried to clean up? Is this salvageable if we all keep doing the awkward, honest work? Or is this the kind of night that marks every wedding photo from now on? That is what I am really asking here, under all the details.